what's up everyone? Pastor JAMZ here back with another review, and a review of the debut album from Goth Babe, Lola. Goth Babe is a one-man show. Griff Washburn, frontman, hear that he's very charismatic, 25-year-old from Tennessee, and I was really excited because he has just released singles, maybe an EP or two over the years since 2018, I believe, is when he started getting a lot more traction and attention toward his music. And what's interesting about Mr. Washburn is that he lives off grid with his adorable dog Sadie, travels around the United States, and might I add, now traveling the world. As this album was made, I believe, when he was coasting along Mexico on his boat Lola, which is the name of the album, and I was pretty excited to hear what he was going to offer, especially given the fact that he's been in the game for a quite some time now, quite a few years now, and this was finally his debut album that just released a week or two ago on January 25th of this year. And that's why I like giving a lot of background information about artists that I review. You don't hear a lot about that. An artist who's living off grid, making music. I think that's really interesting, giving background information like that. Just so, when you dive into the music, not necessarily saying that you have. I like to separate art from the artist, but to an extent, knowing something like that, maybe it can translate to the artist's music, maybe the sound, like if an artist is going to talk about life changing experiences and maybe, finding love or losing love and it didn't really happen, I mean, does it really matter that like it does it really feel real at that point? That's why I love giving background information, and this was an interesting background to Griff Washburn, aka Goth Babe. Let's jump right into Lola. We're looking at 11 tracks and 41 minutes. I was quite surprised to hear the sound right off the bat that was very different from when I heard his upcoming tracks, singles back in 2018 and so on. I believe I did go back to my previous videos where he comes out in a Jams of the Week, if y'all remember that, in the Awesome Jams category. And interestingly enough, the only feature on here, Watts, also made it because he had collabed with Khalid, and that also made it to my Awesome Jams. But I do have to say that that is the only track on here that I don't like. Backwards, featuring Watts, it's easily the worst track on here, and it really does play a big part throughout the whole album because the whole album is an electro pop slash pop rock record, and I did not expect that at all. I do think, and it's just my preference, it's just my opinion. I think that sound is very outdated. I think it's very early to mid 2010s, and I was in middle school going into early high school during those years. So that music was going around everywhere on the radio, in school dances, stuff like that. Me, it's a hit or miss genre of music, and I can. It really takes a lot for me to get into it. I need to see some flair. I need to see something interesting, hear something interesting. I need to hear maybe, something out of left field, experimental with electro pop and pop rock. And I do hear elements like that, like in the track Crocodile and the track Bioluminescence, and even Baja, the last track of the album, where it's just a 5 minute, pretty much an instrumental. There are minor lyrics, but not really. And I do appreciate him incorporating things like uh these these synthesizers and very drony kind of distant melodic keys of sorts, electric guitar riffs that are not hard to the ear, but and also some very very nice acoustic guitars spread out throughout the album that are, it's very nice to hear something like that, an electro pop record. And it does add some flair, some spice, something new to the table. It feels fresh. And if you know the bulk of the album, the main core of the production feels very jumpy, alive, positive, and I give praise to that. However, there are tracks on here like Backwards featuring Watts and Sun Comes Up and Insides where it just feels so generic. The production is very generic, and you see that mostly in the track Backwards featuring Watts. And that is very unfortunate to say and a little, just, it is what it is, it's my opinion. It's how I feel about that type of genre. I didn't expect that to be this album. I was quite shocked honestly, but I'm not going to say that it those tracks are necessarily bad except for that one with Watts. The others, they're just okay. It just feels like there's something missing in those tracks. But I do give him a lot of praise, especially on the tracks like Sadie and Bioluminescence and Baja, where they're very alive. Especially the track Sadie, the one about his very adorable dog. It's something fresh and new to the genre, even though it's been around for decade and a half, even at that. Very fresh and new to the table, but there are very you can clearly tell that he's inspired by Calvin Harris, Fallout Boy, Imagine Dragons, One Republic. The list goes on, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not really my cup of tea. However, it might be your cup of tea if that is what you enjoyed listening back in, early 2010s, mid 2010s. But for me, there's just things that there's flair and risk taken in this album, and I just wish I saw more of that. The other tracks are a little too generic for me in terms of production. The lyrics and the core production, the feel of the whole album is very positive, and I can appreciate that. Very beautiful, and I can see where he was going. Um, no disrespect to Goth Babe, but to me, this album is just there could have been more done. A 6 out of 10 for the debut album from Goth Babe, Lola. Shout out to him. Shout out to Mr. Washburn and his adorable dog, Sadie. I wish them nothing but the best. Link in the description below if you want to check this one out. And hope you all enjoyed the review. Hope you're looking forward to the next one. Pass the JAMZ out.